Ah, Mr. Gill,
No, how are you?
going on? What's going on? I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
Cool, cool, cool. I like the background. I like the background.
Cool.
Artwork. Okay. Is that the latest one you was working on? No, 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 no. That was already finished, right?
No, it's the same thing, a different version.
Got you. Got you. Okay. All right. Um, well, again, gonna let folks know, this is being pre-recorded. We wanted it live, but how things are going right now, it is pre-recorded. But hopefully, this will give a lot of folks a chance to understand who you are, what your platform is, why you're running, and just to kind of get to know you. As I told you before, a lot of folks know your name. You have quite some name recognition in Philly right now, but a lot of folks just don't know. Yeah, yeah, what you stand for and why they should vote for you. So we did get some questions. That I'll let you know. But at this point, if you could just introduce yourself and tell people who you are, what you're running for.
Oh, you want me to do this? We're on live now?
Yeah, yeah, let's
Oh,
go.
so my name is Gilberto Gonzalez. Uh, I am a candidate. Well, hopefully we'll get on the ballot to be a candidate for Congress, a representative in the second congressional district of Philadelphia. Uh, and I've been a lifelong resident, born and raised in Philadelphia. And I've just like many other of my Philadelphians who we've been here, or even recent people, they've seen it go from being okay to just things just getting kind of bad. And just my goal is to educate people that politics really just a lot of the issues that we have are because of bad policy and bad laws that the people who elect are doing. So that's a little bit about who I am. I'm also a visual artist. I'm a painter. I'm a community activist. I've been involved in the community since really the 1970s. My activism started with my dad down on 20th Street when they started gentrifying our neighborhood down there and pushing us out, which they succeeded in. And that's my life has always been just about activism and helping where I could and can.
No, no, I listen, I appreciate that. And I know that firsthand. Me and my wife, we met you when we started at community college. And had we did work study and in the marketing department. And you were one of the first folks that we met. And again, I know from a personal aspect, where your heart is, and why you're doing this, and the reasoning behind that. A lot of folks don't know that. You've opened your doors to my family. Honestly, not really even knowing us. At that point in time, you was just like, all right, if I can help, I'm going to help. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of latched on to you, and wanted to go through this journey with you to help you get to this point of a position in uh, politics. Because like you said, the folks right now that are writing these policies, and that are contributing to these laws, um, to be honest, and coming from my perspective, don't really have a buy-in to our neighbors, our residents, our communities. Like, these folks, they really haven't lived the struggle. They really haven't understood what it takes to actually survive, in a, I would say, a hood that we grew up in. So I want to jump right in, because again, I've literally, I went to dinner last night, and we were talking about you, and some of the folks there knew your name, heard your name, but just didn't know what was going on with you. So I don't even think they understood why they knew your name. So we want to get into that. One of the questions that I did get, they asked, And I think it was actually a good question. And you kind of answered a little bit when you spoke on yourself, but they said, why did you decide to run for a second congressional district?
So, so first, I live in this district, so I'm legally allowed to run for that office. You have to live in the district for really for any office that you're going to run in. But again, just besides, I think over the years, right? There are many community activists that sometimes we fight each other, right? We're like arguing with each other, and we fight each other, and like early on, I'm like, well, God, like y'all, you are wrong and I'm right, or I'm wrong and you're right. We get into these battles, right? And then as I started to do research and think about, well, why are there so many people of color in prison, right? And then you dig into that, right? And basically it was the reason there's so many people of color in prison is because there are laws and policies that were created by our government at the federal level, state level, and city level that created this situation. And that goes for like almost everything, like even gentrification in the 1970s when my dad was was helping people find places, because you would come home and your furniture would be outside, or you'd just be locked out of the building, or they would shut down the heat in the middle of the winter. All kinds of stuff to just get us out. And I'm wondering, like, and I blamed developers, and I blamed, oh, well, they're, you blame white people. Oh, white people are coming in and they're taking over, and the reality is that, well, we're living through it again. Now that we're up in Norris Square, they're pushing us out of Norris Square. And it's not a white thing, it's not a black thing, it's not a Latino thing. It is city policy that is guiding this development. It is city policy that is allowing, for example, we live in row homes. So if a developer knocks down the house right next to you, he can literally do something that is called underpinning. So they can literally dig underneath your basement, 2 feet underneath into your property so that they can build a foundation for their property. Now, what's happening all over Philly is they're damaging people's properties. Houses are falling all over the place because of this bad practice. But city council made it legal for them to do this. So we, as citizens, as homeowners, have no rights. We have to let them dig under. So, I learned over the years that it really is government policies and laws that have put us where we are today as a city. And we're the poorest in the nation, we have one of the worst opiate crises. One of the highest murder rates ever.
We're going to get to those two things too,
And again, you think about, well, what is happening with all this? And it's like, well, it's it's bad city policy, bad laws, and the lack of investment. So that's really why, and at every level, right? Because I think what I've also learned is government. I think the main thing to answer the question is that in order for us to address a lot of the problems we have today, we have to elect people in office that are going to speak for us. And that's something that's why I'm running. That is why I'm so passionate about running, because we're gonna change that narrative.
No, I appreciate that. I do. Because one of the things I know that's big for the campaign that we're running is we kind of run on the back of, you're not a politician, like you have zero experience. Correct me if I'm wrong. Zero experience in Congress. So some folks would be like, well, why am I voting for Gilberto Gonzalez? Because he's never been in politics before. He's never ran an office, city council, none of that. And it's crazy. What I tell folks, the reason that I back you because of that is main one. I remember you ran last time too, right? You know, really small campaign, really, you know, self-driven, because you wanted to see a change, right?
Yes.
And you know, it's fair to say you didn't get to where you wanted because you're running again now. And
Exactly.
I tell folks from last time that you ran till now, the person that we have in place and persons, um, the city's gotten worse. You know, so it's like I don't want anybody in office that has a political background if this is going to be the result. You get me? Like,
Yep.
hold up. Like, if you, that's like, you know, because I work in retail. So that's like, you know, them coming to me saying, hey, we're going to hire this CEO that has ran 4 companies. And I say, okay, well, what are those companies? Oh, well, they closed down. Whoa.
Mhm.
Like, wait a minute. So you want to hire this man to run our company now? But you're okay. No, so you know, I appreciate that definitely with you not having the experience that a lot of folks would want, but you having the passion to make a difference and make a change, you know, and that's key. So um going to uh the opioid crisis, because I'm gonna skip one of these questions because that's
Mhm.
huge right now in the city. A lot of people are talking about that. We had a lot of conversations, um, you know, on that. And there's like I've seen and you've told me there's like almost darn near 50-50 divide when it comes to you know who's for safe injections, who's not, who's for how to handle the problems, how to not handle the problems, how to handle the people that the problems are affecting. So when I ask you, how will you make a stance if you're elected on trying to fix this issue that Philly has?
So the opioid crisis, right? I mean, there's so many conversations we could have, so many different aspects, and people tend to just latch onto one. They'll be like, "Oh, see, Gil doesn't support that. Gil is evil. Gil, and we've been through this."
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so with the opioid crisis, I think the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to have our office at KNA when we're elected. And what that is going to do, it's going to show the entire city, the state, that the opioid crisis is no longer going to be on the back burner, right? It's going to be priority. And with the opioid crisis, there's so many moving parts to this crisis. And what tends to happen with the city, with the state, and then the federal government, they all work separately of each other. They don't come together to kind of like establish legislation that goes across city, state, and federal, right? So that I think that's one thing that has to change is when we have conversations about doing something new, everyone's got to be at the table, the city, the state,
yeah,
and the federal government. No longer can we work in silos like we have been, because once again, I was in a meeting. I don't know if I should be saying this, but I was in a
don't
meeting.
give too much information.
Oh, it's just I'll tell you, the thing is that there are all these initiatives to help people in addiction, which I agree totally with, and that's something that we should really work hard to figure out. How do we help these folks, especially with housing? I mean, it's just like there's so many aspects to it, but the one aspect, and this is where I get the pushback, is I want to help the children, right? I want the children to be able to walk to the corner store, to walk to school, and come back home in relative safety, And right now in Kensington, kids cannot walk to school in safety. There is nothing in place right now to protect our children. And I have not heard of anything that will be in place. But this is a city, state, and it's a national problem. Children should, first of all, The school should not have asbestos. The teachers should be all supported. Teachers should not be pulling out of pocket, right? 'Cause again, there's always a lot of moving parts to every problem. And the problem is, and I'm mentioning all these moving parts, right? Like education, supporting teachers, having the supplies that teachers need, having safe and healthy buildings, having good food programs, all those moving parts will help address the problem in Kensington, right? And the opioid crisis. And those are just a few moving parts. And I know it gets a little complicated, but I think the problem is that if we're going to really put a dent on the opioid crisis and what's always happened in Philadelphia is like Spring Garden used to be the borderline. That was, once you cross Spring Garden, that's where the drugs was. That's where the gangs were. That's where all the stuff was. And then they keep pushing the problem further north rather than resolve it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No,
Right.
I like when you mentioned about ensuring that our kids are safe, because that's a touchy point for me, ensuring kids are good, because I know for me growing up, I saw a lot, I from where I grew up to everything. So trying to avoid kids that have to see a lot of things that we saw coming up, is a huge passion for me, and because that's something that you focus on is one of the reasons why I'm like, okay, I'm with this man. Because again, when you speak on the opioid crisis, coming up late 70s, early 80s, early 90s, we had all these things in place that told us as kids drugs was wrong. You had the DARE program, you had this is your brain on drugs. You had all these things in place to tell us drugs, no, bad. And now you got folks saying, let's help these guys get more drugs safer. And it's like, whoa, like what's the message that we're giving to the youth? Because again, like you said, things should be in place to help these folks, because somewhere down the line, something went wrong that put them in that place. And regardless of what the solution is, you have to ensure that I feel as though kids are an investment, that we protect our investments while coming up with these solutions, So yeah, I definitely agree with ensuring that kids have safe passage because I used to go to Conwell, and I remember getting off the L and walking to Conwell. I had to walk a couple of blocks. I would pass, the height of Kensington, a lot of those blocks, but it was busy. It was stores. It was people going to work. It was lively. It almost felt like, Manhattan in a sense, how busy it was and how crazy it was, but I never felt afraid. That was the thing. Never felt afraid. So I can imagine with a lot of these kids are feeling now, having to go to school and things like that. So since we're speaking on school, you're doing a lot of this transition for me, so I appreciate that. One of the things I know that you're passionate about is arts. Shoot, I mean, look behind you, like everything. So and this honestly, this is my question to you, because I don't even know this, so I'm asking you. Maybe you can answer this. Throughout the early 80s, early 90s, we had trades in school. There were things that people could latch on to help themselves better themselves, to find a job, and it would be a skill that they would possess. Those were since removed from the school. When you had home ec, you had wood shop, you had metal shop, you had driver's ed, so many different things. We even had typing. Is there a way the position that you're going for can help bring those back?
Yes. So again, like at the federal level, funding for education really just comes from the federal government, right?
Mm-hmm.
We approve, again, it's a whole process for everything, and I'm learning this process as we go along. So but just again, like school budgets and all that, like Philadelphia's school budget is allocated by the state. The state budget's allocated by the federal government. So, and so on and so on, right? Parts of it. not all of it, but so with education, at the federal level, yeah, we can, like, for example, there was a bill, part of that $1 trillion package was free community college. So there was a lot of pushback and they took that off the bill. Out of all the things they could have taken out, they took out the one thing that could really help people in Kensington, in communities like even in rural, out in Pennsylvania, out like in the rural
Royersford and things like that. Yeah, rural areas. I got you.
access. I can't say the word rural.
Right. There's a couple words I can't say, so I'm
So the thing is education, giving folks the training they need for the job market that is coming and changing and growing, right? Because that means that when the market, like say, for example, like, right, I'm hoping part of the bill that talks about a green new economy is solar panels, right? I mean, there's a fight right now of whether the solar panels are going to be built in China or wherever. So I'm like, well, the solar panels should be built in the United States. So why don't we train our workforce to build our solar panels? That makes sense, right? Just like for example, even some low hanging fruit, like, and it's just, again, it's a lot of moving parts to it, but like the PPEs, right? Personal protection equipment.
Yeah.
You know, we buy when we got hit with COVID, what happened? We ran out of gloves, we ran out of masks. We were waiting for China to give us all that stuff. Should be made here and produced here, and we should have the trained workforce for all of that, right? To change with the market and grow with the market. And the only way that's going to happen is with education. So when they took that off the bill right now, literally like a couple of weeks ago, they took that off the bill, that $1 trillion stimulus thing that they're doing.
Yeah.
That kind of hurt me because I'm like, well, no, man, that's the one thing that shouldn't be taken out, because that's the one thing that can impact all of us.
Yeah. It's
everyone is education and training, you know? So yeah. And also although like, right, every politician has a lane, like mine will be the federal level. Right now, I would, even though that's my lane, I would go to Harrisburg and I would go to City Hall and advocate. And I would fight for the people in my district and the people in the state and the nation and say, and every level of government, and say, no, you need to support education.
See, and you know what, I'm glad you said that, because that's another thing I think people need to understand about where you're coming from, not only with your campaign, but what you plan to do with your office. Like, you don't plan to just take care of the 2nd congressional district. You plan to try and take care of Philadelphia, then Pennsylvania, then the United States. Not as far as, you know, going for governor, president, things like that. But no, like, you understand your lane, but you also understand that for those that can't speak to city council members, those who can't speak to certain state reps, you know, you'll be that voice for them. You'll go to those places. And one of the reasons, and I'll elaborate on that, because a lot of folks will probably say, well, what do you mean? And we've talked about this a lot. And that goes to one of the other questions that was sent to me to ask you. And it says, how do you plan to tackle violence in your district? And before I have you answer that, I want to kind of give folks a little piece of what we've already talked about, if that's all right with you.
Yes.
I know. Yeah, I know we've spoken and said that, again, at this point in time, your campaign doesn't have the answers to everything. We just don't, like, and we're not going to lie about that. We're not going to say, you know, hey, this is the answer to this, or this is, you know, the solution to this. Like, we're not going to feed the community rainbows and butterflies when we don't have it, you know. But what I did like what you said in one of our conversations, and that you were really, really vocal on, was that the only way to find the answer is to talk to the folks where it's really affecting them, to figure out what do they think would be a solution, because you said every solution isn't the same for every single block. And that to me speaks volumes, because from what I understand, and I'm gonna let you get into answering that. But I just really want folks to understand that with a lot of the representatives that we have right now, they're really good at giving folks answers, but not asking folks if those answers are relevant to them, you know. And one of the things that really I think sets you apart is you're not going to give somebody an answer. You're going to say, hey, well, how can we work out a solution? What works best for you, you know, within your four walls? And then how can we translate that to, you know, now your block and now the next 10 blocks and figuring that out. And for me, I think that's key because you got a lot of folks in the establishment right now that aren't doing that. So I'll let you go back on, but I think that was key for them to hear.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's like again, there are a lot, and the thing is, people have to understand that when a politician gives you an answer, when he says, "Yes, I am for education," you know, well, what the hell does that mean, right? It's like, well, right, and we're so used to it, right?
Yeah.
There are politicians in office now that they're the politician of education. And, you know, and I voted for some of these people and I'm like, oh, yes, they're for education. They're for education. So here we are, 12, 10, you know, years later, and these elected people, education's worse, right?
Yeah.
We have a higher dropout rate than ever. We have schools that are full of asbestos and are falling apart and poisoning our children. The drinking water in our schools are worse. You know, it's like the list of issues with our schools continue to worsen. And, you know, and it's like, well, wait a minute, I thought you were the person on education. Well, you know, so we as citizens, we have to stop it with well, what are you for? Oh, I'm for education. Well, what the hell does that mean? Right. So it's like, what are you exactly are you going to do? What is the plan? And you're correct. The plan for education in Philadelphia is going to be very different from across the state of Pennsylvania. It's going to be very different for the country because, you know, Philadelphia is really different from any other city in the state. We have just so many different issues, so many, I mean, we're a city whereas they're kind of like suburbs all spread out. So I mean, just even the physical difference. So I think the overall arching theme of our thing is that like the second congressional district, when we talk about resolving issues there, right? First of all, it's got to come from the people because the people in the neighborhoods, they know what the problems are. Like when you talked about gun violence, right? And again, there are a lot of moving parts as to why gun violence is the way it is. And it starts with education, right? Our schools are failing our kids, point. You know, that's a fact, you know. I mean, we fought 2 years ago when my son's school was full of asbestos, and you know, I got very emotional because asbestos doesn't impact you today or tomorrow. You'll get it 30 years from now. That's when asbestos is going to hit you. So how much asbestos was my son exposed to? All the children at that school were exposed to. No one can tell us, right? But we pushed hard. We pushed hard at the city level and at the state level, and that school got all of a sudden $30 million to redo the whole school.
So let me ask you real quick, just to touch on that, and then we'll jump right back in. How long of a push did it take for you guys to get those type of answers? Like,
so we were pushing for weeks from I would say about 2-3 months. The school was just dropping the ball on everything. And then it got to the point where the parents groups and well, so I'll say it was Ben Franklin and SLA, right? And one thing that we discovered very quickly, and again, this is another moving part to the problem, is when we went to parents meetings, the SLA parents were there because most of the SLA parents, you know, have jobs that allow them to do what they do and get off work. You know, they own their own. But for Ben Franklin, you know, these are parents that are struggling
grinding
every dollar,
grinding.
And what I learned something during this thing that just devastated me. Did you know that if you're on welfare and you work, if you pass a certain bar of salary, right, a certain level, then you lose benefits.
Mhm.
So the question, is, right, and it has to do with all the problems, right? This is a contributor, aren't we supposed to be lifting people out of poverty? Why would we punish a parents for them making more money? Why not say, well, they're making over a certain amount, so now we have to cut the benefits. Well, wait a minute. What is going to be the impact of cutting those benefits? And so like the government has no idea what the impact is going to be. So the parents can't go to the meetings because they have to work. And they're like, yo, look, first of all, these are my work hours. I can't take off. Number two is I can't change my hours. I can't increase my hours, and I can't do any of that because I could lose benefits. Like,
yeah, and we it's funny you brought that up too. I'm sorry. We spoke on that, and we spoke about seeing how we could adjust the medium of what's considered low income, because at this point, Philadelphia's medium of what's considered low income for a 4-family household is ridiculous. Like, and again, but yes, I'm sorry.
So we were on the what we're talking about, the gun.
We went to the meeting. Yeah.
That meeting. So I'm sorry.
The SLM
Right,
parents were there.
Right. So I think, and so what it brought up was the issues of equity, right?
Yeah.
So the wealthier parents and the wealthier kids have all the support, and the poor parents and the lower income parents don't have any support. Like when they took those kids out of the school, they took the SLA kids and left them in Center City, and then they wanted to move our kids to Strawberry Mansion, and we said, hell no. We said, no, you're not going to take our kids to Strawberry Mansion because we know neighborhoods.
Yeah.
From Poplar Street, kids from North Philly cannot walk into Strawberry Mansion. This is a fact. If you live in the neighborhood, you know this. So why are they making these decisions without talking to the community? And this is what we're talking about is when we come up with decisions, right? We need to talk to the people it's going to impact. And that's something that does not happen right now at any level of government.
Yeah, no, I understand. I lived around 22nd and Diamond for 5 years with my family, and literally on our block, I think at least 7 people were killed, multiple people were shot, and it was crazy. But again, to not factor in even fathom and thinking about talking to the folks that is going to impact is crazy to me. It's crazy. Like, folks just.
And that's what's happening with the opiate crisis in Kensington. They keep coming up with solutions, right? But they're not. They still haven't come up for a solution on how kids are going to get to and from school safely. They still haven't come up with a solution of how they're going to make the blocks where people live, not the people in tents, but the people that kind of own their homes or renting homes. Make it easy for them to go to and from work. Make it easy. How are we going to
the store?
To the store, exactly. Like, I've known parents who no longer send their kids to the store because their kids got robbed by people in addiction who wanted the money. And the thing is, they just don't rob them; they beat them. So it's like, not now. And that just opens up another can of worms. You know what I mean? For me, again, like I think, like with the opiate addiction and the gun violence, we need to include everyone in the conversations if you're going to come up with solutions for that neighborhood.
Agree.
And sometimes, you know what? Sometimes you're not going to agree. Sometimes you're going to be at each other. But I think, and in fact, I know that if we're sitting in that room and we set goals, like, for example, how can kids go to school safely? I bet you the two sides that fight, they're going to come together.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, low hanging fruit, small things that can make an impact, that can make a difference. If you can agree on that, and then you can move forward with the conversation. But it's like the conversation has to be had, you know. And I appreciate you saying it. A lot of times everybody aren't going to agree, and it's true, you know. It's not, because I mean, what me and you don't agree on a lot of things sometimes, you know. You know, but it's like we understand, you know, what we want Philadelphia to look like, you know, what we want the state of PA to look like. So we want to kind of I'm kind of close things up, going on a couple of things. I want to make sure I ask this last question because it was given to me. So, and this is, you know, the thing. The question is, what makes you different from any other politician that's running for office or that's in office now?
So again, so like one is that a lot of politicians that are in office, you know, their legacy, right? The office was given to them by their uncle, by their aunt, by their husband, by their cousin. You know, it's like this is all this legacy stuff in government and all that. So one thing is that I'm not related to anyone. You know? I'm not related to anyone in office right now, and no one in office, they don't care too much for me because I try to hold them accountable. So that's one thing. The other thing is that I'm not a politician. I am like every person in this city. I am a citizen, an American citizen who cares about his community. And I'm just tired, man. I'm just tired of seeing, you know, I'm just tired like everyone else, like everyone, you know, and I know, and I think this is what's part of what is driving this election for us too, is that we're engaging people, right? We're walking the streets and really talking to people, right? We're not just playing the game and saying, oh, we walked the streets and we did this, and no, we're actually doing it, right? We're helping to clean up neighborhoods. We're helping to support groups, grassroots groups, with finances, with support, all kinds of support. We're doing that. It's not easy, but we're doing it, right? And this, you know what, we don't have to do it, right? But we're doing it. And the thing is politicians have so much power, and they can do so much more. And I think, and you know what, the other thing about what is different is that politicians, they never want to admit to mistakes. They never want to admit that they did something wrong. And when they get elected, try to talk to your local politician, try to find him, try to call him and see if he'll return your call. You know, like as soon as they get into office, they disconnect. You know, we're going to be nothing like that. We're focused on the communities. We're focused on the people. We're going to stay engaged. We're not going to disconnect like the other politicians do. They just completely disconnect.
So speaking on that, you said where did you want when you win? Because I say when you win, because it's going to happen. Because people are tired of what's going on right now, and we need something different, you know, in office. And you've and I've heard you have this conversation, and you've told people, you were like, listen, if I'm not doing the job, then vote me out. You know, and I was like, I can appreciate that. But where do you want your main office to be? Because I remember when you told me, I gave you a look like, wait, what? Like, are you serious? You know, but you said, yeah. So, I mean, let the people know when you're elected, where are you going to have your main office?
Our main office is going to be on K&A. It is going to be in Ground Zero. It is going to be a hub for solutions, right? For the people that live there, and even for the people, like, you know, for there are two sides to this argument. You know, we'll be there at the table. Everyone will be at that table, and we're going to come up with solutions at the federal level. We're going to push for change at the state level. You know, because like, for example, like Philadelphia has a tendency to say, oh, well, you know, we didn't get the money we wanted. We're blaming the Republicans in Harrisburg, because we all know that the state legislature is controlled by the Republicans. The city is controlled by the Democrats, right? And all they do is just blame each other for what doesn't happen. That's not going to happen here. I'm going to tell you why something doesn't happen. If something doesn't happen that is supposed to happen, or we're struggling for something and it just doesn't happen, I'm going to tell you why it didn't happen. I'm going to tell you, well, all these politicians, all of them said no. These were the ones that said yes, and these were the ones that said no. These were the ones that said fund it. These were the ones that said don't fund it.
Mm-hmm.
These were the ones that were part of the solution. These are the ones that continue to be part of the problem. Because I think politicians, they want to appease the establishment,
Mm.
right? I'm not going to never be a part of the establishment. The day I become part of the establishment is the day that you people need to vote me out of office, because then that's when I'm going to fail you. Because once you become part of the establishment, you're going to be part of the problems that we continue to have. We need across the board politicians that are not. This is not your job. You were elected. This office does not belong to you.
Lost to the people. That's
It belongs
right.
to people. And these politicians, their whole game is to stay in office 20 years, get their pension, grease the wheels and stuff, and it's like, no, this has got to stop. You know what? I am poor. I'm going to stay poor.
Yeah. Listen, I appreciate that. I think a lot of folks will appreciate it. We're running out of time. I think we got a lot of points across. Folks, if you want to help out, Gil's on Facebook. His campaign is on Facebook. Gilberto Gonzalez 2022. If you want to go to his website, it's www.gilbertogonzalez.org. Definitely, please donate to his campaign. Help us out. You can do that on ActBlue. Search Gilberto Gonzalez 2022. Again, I'll have a link at the bottom that you guys can click. If you have any questions, again, you can send it to info@gilbertogonzalez.com, and he will answer. He will write you back. If he needs to call you, he'll call you. Like he said, he wants his office in the middle of Kensington. We still gonna talk about that, but I don't think I'm gonna change his mind, to be honest with you guys. But he wants to be in the heart of the community. He wants to not only help the 2nd Congressional District flourish, he wants to be an example by using the 2nd Congressional District as an example of how to make things move forward. So the only way he can do this is by helping him do this. Whether you want to come out and volunteer, whether you want to donate, whether you just want to ask questions and get info for yourself, please do so. But he is here. He's not going anywhere. But we do want to send him to Harrisburg. So let's at least start that bus party.
Washington.
Yeah, Washington. And then Harrisburg too. We can go bang on some doors there as well.
We're gonna march on Harrisburg.
All right. Anything you want to say? Last minute, we got about couple seconds.
No, I just want to say that to folks, that Donnell is an amazing individual. He is part of this change that's going to happen. He's just amazing, and I love him dearly. And I wouldn't want to take this journey with anyone else but Donnell. And you're my brother, you're my family, man. And I want people to understand that when you speak, that's us. We're speaking.
All right, man. Wow, I appreciate that. Love you too, sir. We've been family forever, for a long time. Like I said, you guys don't know, this man opened up his doors when just a lot. So I know where his heart is, and I know what he really wants to do for this city. And I know he's not thinking with a political brain, so definitely, please help us out to get there. Because once he gets there, he's going to make sure that he speaks for everybody in this city, But thank you for answering these questions from these folks. Sorry for the folks that I couldn't get all your questions out, because we did get a couple. But again, we may have another one of these, depending on the hype it gets. But thank you, Mr. Gill, for taking the time out. You enjoy the rest of your night. All right, Philadelphia, let's get to the voting.